and then it was time to celebrate 25 years of the game. Triple H. This was played for total comedy. Triple H comes out. He could not believe that it's been 25 years. Suddenly, Shawn Michaels' music hits, and he makes his way to the ring. Shawn looks ancient with that beard. He looks ancient. Shawn said, "I've got 2 words for you." That was social distancing when Triple H went to give him a hug and put his arm around him. He said that he called all of Triple H's family and friends. They're all here to celebrate with him, and then they panned out to show an empty building. And then they show Corey Graves and Michael Cole waving like a couple of dweebs. So Shawn's talking about his own 25th anniversary. It makes me think about my own 25th anniversary celebration. You remember that, right? He's asking Triple H, what was your favorite moment from my 25th anniversary celebration? And Triple H is having a tough time coming up with an answer because, as Shawn says, I didn't have one. But that's okay. Then they talk about their time together as D-Generation X. They were always gold. They never made a mistake. They always got their stuff done in one take. So then they cut to a blooper video of DX messing up a whole bunch of times, which was funny. You know, they were in the Jeep trying to fire it like a tank shot, didn't go off. You know, just a whole bunch of different, like a blooper reel for DX over the years. Shawn talked about Triple H's WrestleMania moments. He goes, they call me Mr. WrestleMania, but you got to talk about the WrestleMania moments that you've had. Then they showed a video package highlighting all of Triple H's WrestleMania losses, of which there have been many, more than you may think. He has had quite a few WrestleMania losses. Ultimate Warrior, John Cena, The Undertaker, actually 3 different times The Undertaker, Daniel Bryan, Seth Rollins, Kurt Angle, and Ronda Rousey. Triple H then asked about Shawn's losses at WrestleMania. Michael said, well, this isn't about me. Let's not change the subject here. This is about you. This is not about me. Shawn said, there's only one little hiccup, which is when you met her. Her being Stephanie McMahon. He called her Stephanie No Fun. On cue, they didn't even let 2 seconds go by before Triple H's phone rang. The world's loudest cell phone rang, apparently. His iPhone went off. He answered the call, the video call, and we see a shot of his phone, and it's Stephanie McMahon. And Stephanie is saying, I'm watching this. I can see what Shawn is doing. I can see what he's saying. I'm watching this live. She started to insult his lazy eye when Triple H suddenly ended the call. Ric Flair called Triple H. He told Triple H, don't let Shawn super kick you at the end of the segment. He started crying because of course he did. So Triple H hung up on him. Then Flair called back and he was bawling. He was in tears. Hung up on him again. So they just cut to break. They just went right to commercial. They come back, Road Dogg or Santa Claus, I don't know who it was, but he was on the phone with Triple H. He wouldn't shut up. I guess that's his thing. They were making fun of the fact that he doesn't know when to shut up, I guess. So Shawn said, look, we don't have a lot of time. Triple H said, don't worry about it. I talked to Fox. We can go as long as we want. And Shawn said, well, good, because I didn't even get to the Katie Vick angle. And with that mention of Katie Vick, out came the chairman of the board and the top creditor of the XFL, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Vince walked out. He stayed on the ramp, social distancing from the two of them because he's old. He's in that high-risk category. This was just, if I had to put this segment into a one-word description from this point on, it would be bizarre. This was very bizarre. Vince was all over the place here. He called Triple H boring. He brought up the gobbledygooker at Survivor Series in Hartford. He brought up the Katie Vick angle and said that he doesn't know why Triple H would do that to a mannequin. Then he brought up the Bayley This Is Your Life segment from Raw a few years ago, said it was terrible, although he did make sure to note that it was not Bayley's fault. Now, some people are going to think maybe he was burying Alexa Bliss with that, because Alexa Bliss was also in that segment. He didn't say it wasn't Alexa Bliss's fault. What he was doing was he was rattling off these random failed angles of his. Now, the Katie Vick one in particular, Triple H has told the story on the radio before about Vince directing him on that segment. Even Triple H was like, what are we doing here? And Vince was all into it. He was like directing it like a movie. You know, you got to be louder. You got to grind. You got to do all this stuff. And they were in a real funeral home. It got to the point where they were making so much noise. I think one of the funeral people, funeral directors had to duck in and say, "Hey, can you please be quiet?" They might have had an actual funeral going on in the room next door. I'm not sure. Then he called Triple H terrible. He said this is a terrible way to go out. This is just his sense of humor, I guess. He said he loves him, but he was also telling him to wrap it up, and then he just sauntered off to the back. Then they turned the lights out on Triple H and Shawn. They played cricket noises as they went off the air. I don't know what I watched here. I mean, the DX blooper stuff was fun, and even the Stephanie call and Shawn's lazy eye. All that stuff was amusing, but once Vince came out, it was like, what am I watching here? What is going on? Vince is like Rick. I hate to say this too, because it's a shame, because Vince McMahon at one time was probably the best promo in wrestling, period. But Vince McMahon now is like Ric Flair, where it can be hard to understand him when he speaks. It could be hard to understand him when he cuts promos. He like gobbles up all the words. He can't even say WWE, which is funny to me because it's his company. But try to listen to Vince say WWE. It's like a bullet train. WB. He can't say. It's like one W. It's like we. The WWE. He can't say it. He can't say it. And Bully Ray was on Busted Open a few weeks ago, maybe last week. But he was suggesting, and I listened to this after the fact. I don't listen to the show myself every day or anything, but I heard that he had made the recommendation, because Bully can be a creative guy. He's had some good ideas before. He suggested that they take Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin and make them the new announce team for Monday Night Raw during these empty arena shows to bring in viewers or bring back viewers, which is silly because nobody is sitting through 3 hours of Raw just to hear the announcers. That might work for 1 week, but by week 2, by week 3, people aren't going to care who the announcers are. I promise you. I don't care who they are. But it's even more ridiculous when you actually listen to what Vince McMahon sounds like these days, right? He sounds terrible. He sounds awful. I miss old announcer Vince McMahon too. I've been trying to play catch up on the old Superstars episodes from the network, and they only have them from 1992 into the beginning of '93. They just dumped a whole bunch of new episodes, so I'm trying to watch it in order because I had started and then I stopped. So I'm up to like June of '92. I'm trying to watch them in order. Nails just debuted. I mean, this is 1992. This was a brutal beatdown of the Big Boss Man. I just have to put that out there. It was like the very last episode of May from '92. If you want to go back and watch it, it's on the network. Nails comes out of the crowd. He grabs a nightstick, and boy, does he put a beating on the Big Boss Man. Papa Shango setting Jobber's feet on fire. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. Berserker tried to murder The Undertaker with a sword. 1992 WWF it's kind of hardcore in a way. But Vince McMahon is on commentary with Mr. Perfect, and I'm reminded of how great Vince McMahon, the announcer, was. Yes, he didn't necessarily know the names of all the moves, but he was a great commentator. He was a great play-by-play guy. I miss old announcer Vince too, but this ain't it. This is not old announcer Vince. This sounds like old Chainsmoker Vince. But announcer Vince was great. I think the message here is it sucks to get old.